Hi guys, if you haven't already, I wanted you to start the day watching the video that you didn't get a chance to see yesterday, which should be about Antietam and the Emancipation Proclamation. After you've done that, then you're moving through these notes at your own pace today, so you can do your thing at your own speed. So the other day we had a question, yesterday we had a question about flags, and I told you I would look them up. And there were actually two Union flags used during the Civil War. There was one that had one less star than this for when Kansas was admitted to the Union, and it was used for a really brief time, like not even a year during the Civil War. And then it was replaced by this one, which is the 35-star flag. Something kind of interesting about this, besides the fact that it is the flag of the United States for two full presidents and for about 8 years at the duration of the Civil War, is that Abraham Lincoln he purposely did not remove the stars of the states that had seceded from the Union on purpose. He wanted it to remain a symbol of unity throughout, even when there were difficult times for our country. So this is the flag that the Union flew throughout almost the entirety of the Civil War, minus just a little bit at the beginning. The Confederacy, on the other hand, went through 3 different flags. This is the stars and bars down here on the bottom left, and it was the official national flag of the Confederacy at the very beginning of the war. And some people in the South thought that it looked a little too much like the Union flag, and so there was a movement to change it somewhat. And that's when they came up with this one, which I believe is called like the stainless banner, something like that, the stainless banner. And the battle flag, which the part you're most familiar with in the corner of this flag on the bottom right, is actually a battle flag from the Confederacy during the Civil War, not at any point one of the national flags, at least during the Civil War time period. Finally, this is the flag at the tail end, the Confederate flag at the tail end of the Civil War as they lost. And it's said that this end is kind of dipped in blood to commemorate the end and the loss of life at the end of the Civil War. This flag that you're more familiar with was a battle flag, not a national Confederate flag. But this symbolism, of course, gets utilized by other groups, and oftentimes when you see portrayals of men on the battlefield, that is the flag that you see because it's a battle flag. Mary Chesnut was a daughter of a South Carolina governor and the wife of a U.S. senator who resigned his office to serve in the Confederate government. During war, she recorded her observations and thoughts in a diary. In 1864, Chesnut went to hear Benjamin Palmer, who was a minister and a professor, and he was speaking about the war. In her diary, she described how Palmer's pessimistic words filled her with foreboding about the future of the Confederacy. September 21st. I did not know before how utterly hopeless was our situation. This man is so eloquent. It was hard to listen and not give way. Despair was his word, and martyrdom. He offered us nothing more in this world than the martyr's crown. He spoke of these times of our agony, and then came the cry, "Help us, O God! Vain is the help of man." And so we came away, shaken to the depths. By September of 1864, the Northern armies had won several decisive battles. Mary Chesnut must already have had some idea of the threat posed to her way of life. In 1863, she wrote that the South, the only world we cared for, had been literally kicked to pieces. The tide turns. The year 1863 actually begun fairly well for the South. In December of 1862, Lee's army had defeated the Union Army at the Potomac at Fredericksburg, Virginia. And then in May, the South had again defeated the North at Chancellorsville, Virginia. The North's only consolation after Chancellorsville came as a result of an accident. As General Stonewall Jackson returned from a patrol on May 2nd, Confederate guards accidentally shot him. A surgeon amputated his arm the following day, and when Lee heard the news, he exclaimed, Jackson lost his left arm, and I have lost my right. And the true loss was still to come. Jackson caught pneumonia and died on May 10th. Despite Jackson's death, Lee decided to press his military advantage and invade the North. He needed supplies, and he thought that a major Confederate victory on Northern soil might tip the balance of public opinion in the Union to pro-slavery politicians. Accordingly, he crossed the Potomac into Maryland, and then he pushed on into Pennsylvania. Near the sleepy town of Gettysburg, in southern Pennsylvania, one of the most decisive battles of the war was fought. The Battle of Gettysburg began on July 1st, when a Confederate soldiers, led by A.P. Hill, encountered several brigades of Union cavalry under the command of John Buford, an experienced officer from Illinois. Buford ordered his men to take defensive positions on the hills and ridges surrounding the town. When the Hill troops marched toward the town from the west, Buford's men were waiting. The shooting attracted more troops, and both sides called for reinforcements. By the end of the first day of fighting, 90,000 Union troops under the command of George Meade had taken a field against 75,000 Confederate troops led by General Lee. By the second day of battle, the Confederates had driven the Union troops from Gettysburg and had taken control of the town. I'm going to start that part over. By the second day of the battle, the Confederates had driven the Union troops from Gettysburg and had taken control of the town. However, the North still held positions on Cemetery Ridge, the high ground south of Gettysburg. On July 2nd, Lee ordered General James Longstreet to attack Cemetery Ridge. At about 4 p.m., Longstreet's troops advanced from Seminary Ridge, where they were positioned in a peach orchard and a wheat field that stood between them and most of the Union Army on Cemetery Ridge. The Confederates repeatedly attacked the Union lines. Although the Union troops were forced to concede some territory, their lines withheld the withering Confederate onslaught. On July 3rd, Lee ordered an artillery barrage on the center of the Union lines on Cemetery Ridge. For 2 hours, the two armies fired at one another in a vicious exchange that could be heard as far away as Pittsburgh. Believing they had silenced the Union guns, the Confederates then charged the lines. Confederate forces marched across the farmland between their position and the Union high ground. Suddenly, the Northern artillery renewed its barrage, and the infantry fired on the rebels as well. Devastated, the Confederates staggered back to their lines. After the battle, Lee gave up any hope of invading the North and led his army back toward Virginia. The 3-day battle produced staggering losses. 23,000 men and 28,000 Confederates were killed or wounded. Total casualties were more than 30%. Despite the devastation, Northerners were enthusiastic about breaking the charm of Robert Lee's invincibility.
Anybody know what this place is? Gettysburg. This is where they fought the Battle of Gettysburg. 50,000 men died right here on this field, fighting the same fight that we're still fighting amongst ourselves today. This green field right here, painted red, bubbling with blood, young boy, smoke, and hot lead going right through their bodies. Listen to their souls, man. I killed my brother with malice in my heart. Hatred. Destroyed my family. You listen. Take a lesson from the dead. If we don't come together right now on this hollow ground, we too will be destroyed. Just like this. I don't care if you like each other or not, but you will respect each other. And maybe, I don't know, maybe you will learn to play this game like men.